Revising for knowledge. Even though university learning is higher level, focusing on in-depth understanding, critical thinking and creative problem solving, there are still some things you just need to memorise. Core facts, key information. A university exam is more than a memory test, but having that solid background knowledge gives you a basis to build your deeper understanding on and gives you concrete knowledge to work with. And sometimes you just need the facts at your fingertips. The kind of knowledge you might want to memorise will depend on your subject, but might include things like key terminology and their definitions, useful examples or quotations, names of important studies, theories or scholars, parts of a model or diagram, or stages in a process. While revising for an exam isn't limited to memorising information, some subjects rely on this kind of learning more than others, and in any subject there's always a certain amount of core detail that you're just expected to know, even in a take-home exam. You can't always look things up. Let's start with looking at some common approaches to revision that you might be using and why they might not be quite up to the job. Rereading and rereading your lecture slides, notes and books. This is a very common strategy and it can feel good. As you read, you're encountering material that you've seen before, and to your brain it feels familiar, like you know it, you've learned it. There's two issues here though. Firstly, reading is quite a passive strategy for revision. Your eyes are moving over the page and hopefully you're taking information in, but if you've seen the material before, it's not really engaging your brain deeply, and without actively working with the information in some way, it's not becoming part of your mental map of the subject. And secondly, it can lead you to overestimate how well you know the subject. That feeling of familiarity as you read material you've seen before is a fallacy. You're not actively recalling the information, and without the text in front of you prompting you, you might find you don't actually know it as well as you thought. Recognising it when it's in front of you isn't the same as really knowing it in depth. Copying information out or highlighting it is an extension of this strategy. It certainly feels like work, and you've a lot to show on the page for the time that you've spent, lots of notes and highlighting and underlining. But again, it's quite a passive strategy. You can copy something out without engaging your brain, indeed without even understanding what you're writing. It's easy to lose focus and let your attention drift, and before you know it, you've become a human photocopier, or highlighted the whole page in fluorescent yellow. There's some benefit when you're focusing and your brain is actively engaged in making decisions about what to copy and what to leave, but it's still fairly shallow processing. And what you're rehearsing is a fairly simple skill, but the exam doesn't test the motor skills of copying something out, or, in most cases, your ability to replicate something in front of you exactly word for word. Repeating something over and over is another common approach. It's true that the more you encounter something, the more familiar you become with it, but just repeating something out of context isn't necessarily going to wear a groove in your memory when the prompt you're using isn't there, and you have to recall it without help. Repeating something, like copying it out, is also a fairly shallow strategy, in that it doesn't demand that your brain processes it deeply. After all, an exam isn't just a test of whether you can regurgitate information, but whether you understand it and can use it. What's missing from these strategies is what researchers call desirable difficulty. Even if you're putting the hours in, if revising is too passive and your mind isn't actively engaged and working hard, then it's probably not learning at a deeper level. You won't be really integrating this new information into your existing mental overview of the subject in a meaningful and lasting way. If you're making your brain work harder, it might seem at first that it's not paying off, that you're struggling, getting tired easily, or making mistakes. But desirable difficulty is helping you learn. Even when you get things wrong, even when it feels like it's not going in, you're still getting somewhere. So let's look at some revision strategies that use the principle of desirable difficulty, and that'll help you learn the material at a deeper level. Some of these revision strategies might be familiar to you from school, others might be new, so you might want to take a moment to reflect on your approach to revision and ensure it's as effective as it can be. Some of these strategies are more effective than others, and some might just suit your own preferences or your subject matter better than others, but experiment and see what works for you. 1. Pre-testing and retrieval practice. Firstly, you need to persuade your brain that something is worth remembering by identifying it as something to pay particular attention to out of all the other things it could be taking note of. Test yourself before you start revising a topic, pre-testing. You might set yourself a quiz or try a past paper. You probably won't get much right at this early stage, but this primes your brain to look for and retain information as being significant and useful later on, as you now have a purpose for it. This also helps you plan your revision and identify areas to target. Testing will continue to play an important role in your revision. It's one of the most effective techniques you can use, so keep on quizzing yourself, not just to see if you have learned something, but as part of the process of learning it. 2. The startle effect. Your brain will pay attention to something that's novel or unexpected, so use the startle effect. Switch up formats, colours, fonts, etc. so that not everything looks the same, and use bizarre examples or mnemonics to help you remember. The more absurd, the better. 3. Chunking. Your short-term memory can only handle a small number of things at once, so increase its capacity by grouping similar things together into groups of maybe 3 to 5 items, so each group then counts as a thing in its own right. Think about how you memorize phone numbers in groups of digits. If a topic's too big or complex to learn at once, try breaking it down further into smaller amounts that you can then build up again. If you have a list of things to learn, build it up slowly, learning the first 3 items, then adding 3, then another 3. Make sure you're still rehearsing the earlier items as you build up, and later on you could mix things up in a different order to keep it flexible. 4. Personal meaning and association. Link new knowledge to existing knowledge that has meaning for you. This might be relationships with subject knowledge you're already familiar with, or it might be comical or nonsensical word or visual associations, what it looks like or sounds like. These associations are entirely individual and personal to you. 5. Mnemonics. A basic technique that you might have used at school, but it still works. These include acronyms, such as Richard of York gave battle in vain, to remember the colours of the rainbow, and also numbered lists of things to check off, such as the 7 characteristics of living things. The mnemonic acts as a prompt and a check to ensure you've not missed anything, and it's easier to recall something with a bit of a starting point to nudge your memory. Make these as absurd or personal to you as you can. 6. The locus technique. This is an ancient method. This uses our episodic memory, remembering events or places that we know rather than facts, to locate new, abstract knowledge in space or time more concretely, and give them a structure or link them in some way to help you recall them. You might imagine items placed around a room or house and picture yourself walking through it, checking each item off. 7. Narrative, another old technique. Stories are also very memorable. Embed things you need to remember in a narrative or scenario, real or imagined. 8. Rhyme and rhythm. Many of us will have used songs as children to learn things like the alphabet or your times tables, and embedding knowledge in something musical can still help to make it memorable or enhance another technique.